Well, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Ginn. I'm Executive Director of the OpenJS Foundation. I moved to San Francisco last fall and totally loving it. So I have had the best jobs ever. I've worked with open source and open standards for 16 years. You may be surprised that I started my open source career at Microsoft as one of the original open source folks back in 2008. They had a gentle nudge, perhaps, from the European Commission on interoperability, so I was sort of charged with helping the engineering teams talk more about interop. From then, I was starting work at the Node community also at Microsoft, and then, gosh, this job came up 4.5 years ago with the merger of the JS Foundation and the Node.js Foundation, and it was like a dream job. So here I am. Now, this is my friend Michael Rogers. Did y'all meet Michael when he was the executive director of the Node Foundation? He might have not have described his job as the best job ever back in the day. And if you were to take a look at the Node documentary, he described the job at the time as there was so much blank drama. So how many of you seen the Node documentary yet? It's about an hour long. Actually, it's a good read. It's super fast video. It's made by Honeypot. They're called like the Netflix for developers. It's super interesting. It talks about the creation of Node and really all of the drama around it, the fork, and how the community came back together. So it's really a historical drama because it stopped at 2015, which is when the foundation came together. So I'm going to talk about sort of how a foundation like ours kind of helps prevent drama, and we can all have peace, love, and JavaScript. I mean, Christian and Jordan, they do feel like coworkers, my water cooler folks, my friends, and hopefully you'll all be friends later too and start participating. But we do support more than Node.js. We're here to really support the JavaScript and the web ecosystem as a whole. And when you think about projects that come to us, sometimes I like to say, when a project becomes really valuable to society or to developers, a lot of times they get donated to a foundation like ours for sort of that neutrality and sort of that long-term consistency. And if you look at JavaScript, JavaScript is used in almost 99% of the world's websites. So people are using JavaScript whether they know it or not. It's mission critical, not just AI as we're talking about. It's used from NASA to Netflix. NASA uses it for spacesuit solutions to keep astronauts safe. So pretty mission critical work happening with JavaScript. As I mentioned, we're more than Node. We have 35 projects in our foundation. Think about Appium, Jest, Electron, NVM, most of you use. That's Jordan's project. WebDriver, we're going to hear about later tonight from Christian. But we really have this like better together sort of way that we work together. jQuery, of course, very popular in 77% of the world's websites today. And you kind of think like, how do you all function and operate? Well, we're member supported for about half of our budget. The other half we get grants. IBM, Joint, Microsoft, and the Sovereign Tech Fund. That's a German government grant that we receive. Hero Devs, GoDaddy, Google, and others. So they pay membership dues and we have a staff. It's me and 2 half-time people, small and mighty team with a whole army of volunteers that work for JavaScript every day. So again, if you watch that documentary, so much drama, right? Drama, drama, drama. So why and how does a foundation like ours kind of neutralize that drama? And really the core essence is neutrality. As we mentioned, we all work at different companies. We love competition. Everybody has their favorite tool, framework. That's all awesome, but neutrality is really important. And what's also important is we separate sort of that membership dues paying people with the technical direction of the project. So there is a big firewall on that. So the board of directors is comprised of our members. They set sort of they manage the financial direction, the legal, and they're my boss essentially. And then if you look at the cross-project council, that's like our technical oversight committee, and then the governance around those individual projects. Those are all community-led and very bottoms-up. I do like to say that these projects are kind of the tail that wags the dog at the foundation. And if the community is working, then everything is sort of working. So another important aspect, as I mentioned on the last slide, to sort of prevent drama is open governance. So if you think about open source, that's perhaps like how a project is, how it's built, right, or how it's licensed. But open governance is kind of how it's, how the decisions are made and how it's written down. And I took the Node project because, one, it's bigger, and you can see we have a lot of smaller projects that have different governance models. But there's different layers of governance. And in governance, the people are typically nominated and elected by the community. And so if you see the different layers, you have the technical steering committee, which are the folks at the top who really are the key decision makers of a project. And for example, you can have no more than 25% of people from one company on the technical steering committee. So if you take a project like Node, no one person and no one company can control the project. And then of course there's other layers with the collaborators as well. All of the projects are, we call it radically transparent. We stream most of our meetings. Live on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Node has a YouTube channel from our cross-project council. Notes are documented and published. You're all welcome to join anytime. You can check it out and see if you're comfortable. You can come lurk. You can come jump right in. It's a pretty friendly group of people. Another important way to sort of neutralize drama is intellectual property. And if you think about a project, I mean, at its core, the trademark or the intellectual property around that project is really important, particularly when it comes to the source code. You want to know that that body of work is the true node, is the true MVM or WebDriver. And this is really important, not just for things like, okay, it's a training and documentation and everything good, but it's the download link, right? And you have that authority. So the trademark is really important. One of the issues that the Node project had back in the day when the fork and they came back together is Joyent, which then became part of Samsung, kept the trademark. And they allowed us to have a free perpetual use of that. But a few years ago, they finally felt like they had trusted the entity to take care of the project in the long term, and they donated the IP and the trademark back to the foundation. And that felt so good, particularly for those folks who'd just been working on Node for so many years, that it's their project, they own the project, it's protected. And if there's any issues with trademarks, sometimes it's a no-brainer, and we can say stop. Sometimes it's questionable. I take it to the technical steering committee, and they decide. But that was a really good deed that Joyent and Samsung did. As I mentioned, we operate in a better together kind of way, and it's not just the way the projects come under the umbrella and start working with each other on the specific open source projects. We have something that many groups call working groups. We call them collaboration spaces. We think we're a little more JavaScripty, and it just sounds more inclusive. And so I'll just describe some of them. We have an open visualization collaboration space. You were going to learn about that today, but Chris, our speaker, is sick, so he will come next month to speak. So you should stay tuned for that. If you go to openvisualization.org, you can see some of the great work happening in the VizGL space in the family of projects. We have a security collaboration space doing amazing work that is essentially taking a lot of the work that's happening in the Open Source Security Foundation and other places and standards bodies and customizing that for JavaScript in the ecosystem and publishing that out. A lot of that work is being funded by the German government grant, which is amazing, and we hope more governments sort of step in and help. We also have a package metadata interoperability collaboration space and improving how developers define packages across the ecosystem and taking a look at package.json. So if that's something you're interested in, that's really spinning up and seems to be really well attended, and there's a lot of interest. They're starting with some research and just defining the space and then having some opinions later. And then, of course, last but not least, standards. We were talking about standards earlier tonight. We kind of have a who's who in our standards collaboration space, and everyone's welcome to join if you're a standards wonk like I am. We have folks from TC39 who define ECMAScript, the JavaScript language, TC53, we have W3C, we have Unicode Consortium, we have WinterCG as well. So if that is something you're interested in, we're doing a lot of education. We really want to sort of educate kind of the new generation of standards folks. And yeah, we provide travel funding and resources if you're interested in attending standards meetings. So take a look at all of these collaboration spaces are on our GitHub repo if you're interested. And somebody was asking me sort of like, we're talking about budget, like what do you need budget for, right? Because we talk about sustainability, and the projects definitely need budget. We've been trying to do more on the sustainability front to pay for some security resources and engineers. But there's a lot more to a successful open source project than code. So a lot of what we do at the staff at the OpenJS Foundation is a lot of these things. You may not be able to see it, but it's areas around security, marketing, legal compliance. We file things like export control, antitrust with FTC and DOJ. We do a lot of marketing with our projects to drive adoption, which of course drives that sort of future-proofing. And we have a lot of resources from IT infrastructure on up. So sometimes I think, if you think about where do you trust to send your code and you're going to sign a CLA or a DCO, it's kind of nice if you send it to a neutral organization like OpenJS. OpenJS is also under sort of the family of the Linux Foundation. We are an independent foundation, but again, it's just me and 2 half-time people, plus a whole bunch of fractional people across the Linux Foundation. So that allows me to sort of burst and scale depending on the services we need. And the other executive directors at the big foundations at the Linux Foundation are sort of my peer support group, and we support each other in everything we do. And then last but not least is culture. I think we have the coolest, most fun, diverse community. And again, you're all welcome to join. We have a lot of fun. Jory leads our standards meetings. This is us at OpenJS World. Our last dinner, we decided to order pizza at the beach and had a whole bunch of people. And so again, it's a great way to sort of make friends. And for me, I think I found open source really was a great way for me to grow my career personally, which has been a lot of fun. So if you think about that Node documentary and all the drama, if I were to look at Node today, you saw they shipped Node 22 yesterday. If we were to have a sequel today from 2015 to 2024, I'd say it's pretty much mostly peace, love, and Node. They've been shipping every 6 months since 2015, like clockwork, amazing. It's probably on every developer's laptop. 2 billion downloads, no big deal. And again, they've really sort of set that de facto standard on governance and some other issues, and then just a ton of investments in security. So if you all want to get more involved, whether with any of our projects or OpenJS, we have an open Slack channel. The invite is linked on that page right there, as well as our homepage, public calendar. What else do we have? Yeah, all kinds of things. Email list you can sign up for. We'll have events here and there. We've had OpenJS World. We may bring back some Node events. We do events for collaborators as well. So if you all would like to join, just come talk to any of us. I think Jordan and Christian participate in a number of our collaboration spaces. So thanks for having me.